So I'm back from Morocco and I'm in one piece, just about. And the bike's virtually in one piece, just about. What a great trip it's been. 18 days, heading down from Portsmouth, down through Spain into Morocco with the sole aim of getting to the Sahara Desert. As most of you know, I should know by now, I planned to do this back in November last year. I ended up, because life got in the way, ended up doing it in February. I planned out, roughly speaking, what my route was going to be, and more importantly, where I was going to be staying each evening. And I stuck that on Facebook, along with an idea of cost budget, which was about £3 grand, more about that later, out there into the public domain, saying, hey, if anyone wants to join me, come and join me. The idea being was that we were going to ride independently of each other, in a sense, knowing that in the morning we're going to start at A, in the evening we're going to finish at B. How each person wants to get there is totally up to them. So me, for instance, I want to go up and over. I'll always take the longer route round and get there a little bit later than everyone else. A few of the others may have wanted to go on the direct route. There was one guy on a semi-off-road bike. He was more than happy to go down the dirt tracks. Not for me, although I did end up down some dirt tracks, but nowhere like where he went. So, the main question I've had is, how did I come up with this idea? How did I plan it? And most importantly, what the cost was. How did I estimate and budget for all this? I'll explain all of it now. So, first things first, I got myself a map of Morocco. Quite a handy thing. I'm a bit old-fashioned, although you can see it on Google Maps. I do like looking at a paper map, and in addition, this was my backup map, and it did come in quite invaluable because some of our sat navs weren't working properly. I planned out my route then, also using Google Maps. So I've got the paper version just so that I can see the big picture, and I've got the paper version, the online version, just so that I can see where I was going. So did you know that within Google Maps you can create your own map? I've got this tab open called Travel Plans, and I'm going to add, first of all, Santander and then Algeciras, the port that I want to get to in Spain. And when you click save, you'll end up with a map with loads of markers all dotted around it. So for this example, because I don't want to mess up my own map, I've just got Santander and Algeciras marked on the map, and I can roughly work out what a halfway marker is going to be by just visually looking at the map and looking at the roads. And I ended up choosing Merida as my halfway point. Bear in mind that I was just aiming to get through Spain as quickly as possible. So now my plan is to add all of these areas that I think I want to stop at as markers within my own Google Map travel plans. So I've added Merida, and I know that I want to get down to Meknes, because it's a lovely place to stop. So I'm going to add Meknes as well as my travel plans. And I also know that Merzouga is pretty much the main town before the Sahara. So I'm going to add that one on. And then I can get an idea of actually how long it's going to take me to get between each place. Now, I had never heard of Gorges du Ziz before until I was watching someone on YouTube who stopped at this Jurassic camping Gorges du Ziz. So even though I can't find it on the map, whenever I hear of anything like that on YouTube or something, I'll jump on my phone and I'll just drop a pin on my places that I want to go map, and then it leaves a marker there. So now I've dropped a load of pins on my map, I can get a visual idea, an overview of where everything is in relation to the rest of the world. Now, I know that I can do 500 to 600 kilometers in a day, every day, repeatedly. But of course, everyone's different, and that is the main thing. Find out what your benchmark is for a day's worth of riding. So Santander to Merida is 639 kilometers. That'll be obviously going on the motorway, the quickest way possible. 6.5 hours riding, so in reality, that's going to be about a 8 hour day, really, once you stop for lunch. And so I continue doing this, making little notes as I go. Santander to Merida, Merida down to Algeciras to see how long that would actually take me. And I ended up with a list of town to town with roughly how many kilometers and what Google would say would be the quickest route there. So now it got to the point where I've got to turn my scraps of paper into something more tangible. I like spreadsheets. I know a lot of people don't. This was the 7th or 8th incarnation of route planning. Obviously had my days, knew what day that I could go because the Portsmouth Santander ferry's on very much fixed days. And listed my days, 1 to whatever, however much time I could take off. And then stuck in my route. So roughly speaking, I was looking at the Santander to Merida. It was going to be 637 kilometers, taking approximately 6 hours based on Google. That excludes having breaks and lunch stops and etc. And then I had to do some research for some hotels. So just as an example, in Merida, the Hotel Villadia that we stayed at, it is a case of watching people on YouTube and reading a few travel books and blogs and such like, taking it from recommendations from other people, and then jumping onto the likes of TripAdvisor and actually doing some homework yourself. Now, I know I'm a pedantic planner, but a lot of people aren't. Doesn't really matter. Whatever you're comfortable with. So, TripAdvisor for hotel research. You can go into the Hotel Velada Merida, the one that I was thinking about. Yes, it's a bit impersonal, but I didn't know what time of the evening I'd get in there, so I needed somewhere that was kind of like a Premier Inn sort of thing, somewhere where I could rock up at any time rather than a pub. Some of the reviews are good, some of the reviews are bad. Bear in mind, people only write reviews if they've got something to say. Either it's really excellent or it's really bad. But in the reviews section, you can search for things like motorbike, motorcycle, or parking. Go through the reviews, some off-street parking outside the hotel, blah, 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 blah. And then further down, I found that they have actually got a private car park to the side of the building. So obviously, bike security was going to be a big thing for me because without my passport and my phone and my wallet, the next most important thing is my bike. So having a quick look through the reviews, looking for obviously the recommendations that you found from other people. There was parking there. It was gated, barriered parking. You were meant to pay for it, but the barrier didn't stretch all the way to the end, so bikes could park for free. Bahaha. So this bit of research was critical, and it was on every single hotel, and then I'd add the link to the TripAdvisor site off my spreadsheet, just so that the other guys who wanted to come along could know where I picked the hotels from. Of course, once you've figured out your hotel, have a look on TripAdvisor, obviously, look for their prices, then go and check it out on hotels.com, booking.com, and all the usual suspects. I did find that if you look around, you can sometimes find a better price by going direct to the hotels.com website rather than the link of TripAdvisor. That said, when I first had a look, I worked out some costs in advance. That hotel, for instance, was £46 when I looked at it in November, but when I came to book it, only a couple of weeks later, it was £54. Maybe there was a cookie that said that I was going to book there anyway. My route on the big map, after getting through Algeciras and into Tangier Med, we took this little yellow wiggly road down to Beni Maden, outside of Tetuan. Then we followed this main red road, the Route Nationale 2, past Chefchaouen. There are a few roadworks on this, and we followed it all the way down through that one. All the way down to Meknes, where we stayed the night. This was quite a long run to do in one afternoon, bearing in mind that our ferry didn't get in till about 11 or so noon pretty much, and we got into Meknes at dusk, so around 6 o'clock in the evening. The following day we went from Meknes down to Gorges du Ziz. This was a route down the RN13, quite spectacular route through. There's some national park up there and such like. We briefly stopped in somewhere along the way here, and then in Middelburg, which we had lunch. Just so you know, these little signs over here, they are mines, which I'll show you on the Google map. They are places that I do want to have a look at another day. Supposedly there are some abandoned mines which you can ride your bike through, which sounds pretty cool. Got to have a look at that another day. Anyway, we followed it down past this place called Rich to Gorges du Ziz. That was our second night in Morocco. After which we headed straight down here through this Oasis du Ziz, Air Food, and down to Shebi, outside of Mezuga. We actually stayed a bit further south from this. We stayed past Mezuga, so we were somewhere around this area over here, which is the top end of the Sahara. From Mezuga, staying out in the desert over here, we headed back up this way, and we headed along this road here, which is the 7105, absolute middle of nowhere. Seems really short, but golly, that took for ages it seems, but there was just nothing there. We stopped off in Todra, where we had a quick look at the view, and then the plan was to follow this N10, Route Nationale 10, up to Dades Gorge and stay the night there. Sorry, I marked it in the wrong place there. This route over here that comes over the top is shown on the map as doable, but it wasn't. As you know, it was completely unmade. There were bulldozers still moving dirt out of the way, although there were a few trucks and minibuses that were still taking this route because it shows it on the map. But I will not do that road again unless it's completely made again. This was just too much hard work, way above my pay grade, way above my experience level. But anyway, we ended up in Gorges du Dades. From Dades Gorge, we headed down towards Wazarat, which is just off the map down here. There is supposedly a massive lake over here, totally dried up. This was where we saw that massive solar park tower in the middle of nowhere, and we headed straight up here to Demante. This road here, a little bit of landslide, a few bits of rubble on the road and such like. Beautiful, middle of nowhere, no fuel stops. Okay, so fill up when you're down here. There is virtually nothing until you get up to Demante, whatever it's called. Then we headed up to the Uzud waterfalls. Stayed the night at Uzud, which was very pleasant and very pretty. Lovely little riad there, and they allowed us to park our bikes in their courtyard. From Uzud, we headed straight into Marrakesh. Now, our hotel was in the southwest of Marrakesh. So although we came down this way, we then piggy-ragged around all the country roads and such like, so that we could go straight into Marrakesh and end up in our hotel. We stayed in Marrakesh for 2 nights, after which we headed out on the Route 9, missing out this A3 motorway, heading towards Casablanca, but then we veered off somewhere around here to Ben Ahmed, and then up to Rabat. This road is boring. Again, if I can do it again, I wouldn't bother with this road. It was so boring. It was almost as boring as being on the motorway, but just with a few more speed restrictions and a few more police road checks to go through, which we didn't get stopped at any. We stayed in Rabat. Getting into Rabat, bit of a drama. It's the capital city. But what more can you say? It was nice to see a different side of what Moroccan culture has to offer. From Rabat, we headed back to Chefchaouen. We kind of headed semi-cross country, taking a lot of these wiggly roads. I remember we stopped in Ouazane for lunch. And that is a lovely town. When we came past it, we kind of bypassed it on the way down, but we stopped at it on the way back. And there's some very interesting history about Jews and Muslims living there, which I'm tell you about another time. And we ended up in Chefchaouen. These roads here are quite spectacular. From Chefchaouen, we were meant to be heading straight back up here to the port, but instead we took this road over here out towards the eastern Mediterranean coastline, and then follow the Route Nationale 16 through Tétouan up towards Ceuta, missing out. There is an element of toll somewhere along here. I think it's actually the motorway, so we missed out the toll side of things, and headed back to Tangier Med, from Tangier Med to Algiers on the ferry, and then we ended up in Marbella, and then headed back from there. So, costs and how I booked rooms and such like. So, now I've got my list of hotels that I want to stay at, with rough locations and such like. I can go back into Google Maps, good as a backup as well, and actually pin the hotels themselves in there. So you can see that I've got the Barcelona Marbella, Tangier Med as the port, Hotel Al Khalifa that was in Chefchaouen, and oh, wrong button. And I can see in there I've got the hotel as well as Algerius as a pin. And if in doubt, I can always use Google to get me from A to B. In theory, Google should be one of the quickest ways of should give me the quickest route. Maybe not the most fun route, but it's got live traffic and such like all built into it, hasn't it? If you are interested in a list of the hotels that I use, they are all listed on each day's YouTube bio. I mentioned earlier that when we were outside Midlet, there were some mines, some old mine shafts that I'm told that you can ride through. I will go back there at some point, but I found them, again, dropped myself a pin on Google Maps when I saw some video about it at one point.
Camels on the side of the road, no owners. It's like the New Forest, but the ponies are weird looking.
So, all I needed was a map of Morocco, paper map. This is by Reese Know-How. It's a German map. People online were saying that basically there's very few paper maps of Morocco, but this one on Amazon, I think the link's somewhere in the bio, is supposedly the most up-to-date one that there is, but something is better than nothing. Insurance documentation for Morocco. Of course, you need your European insurance and possibly breakdown cover in Europe and the Spanish side of things, but once you get to the port, you need one of these. We were never asked to show it, we were never asked to look at it or anything. I don't think it's worth the paper that it's printed on. It's some sort of third-party insurance, but if we were stopped, we would need this, and for 60 quid, it's peace of mind. Maybe stopped, if we had hit someone or been in any sort of incident, this would have had to be shown. Temporary import documentation. This is the card that you do not want to lose when your bike is out there, because it is the only thing that says that your bike can go into Morocco and not be taxed as an import, and then you can take it out of Morocco and not be taxed as an export. Your box standard UK V5, which you'll need. Your passport, make sure that it gets stamped on the way in and you get a CIN number written in. It's in a scrawly ink, they do it all the time. Once you've got a CIN number, that is your police record number of you in Morocco. So it's like your identity card for use in Morocco. When you leave Morocco, you have to make sure that they stamp your passport on the way out, because otherwise, if you try and get back in there in a few years' time, you have way overstayed your welcome. It is basically the same as the EU rules since Brexit. So exactly the same thing. Make sure you get stamped in and out when going into Europe, and same for Morocco. Money. This is a 200 dirham note. That's the light blue ones. Give or take, at the moment, that's worth about 16 or 17 pounds. Now, this is an interesting thing. If you look at the money exchange sort of rates, it will say 18 to 19 pounds for 200 dirhams. But I use a Halifax Clarity credit card. Plus side about it, it has got a massive APR if you don't pay it up every month. But the plus side is that you can use it abroad for foreign transactions for no penalty. And they charge you the MasterCard bank-to-bank transfer rate. So there's no additional charges. Most other banks and such like will charge you something or their special rate, which will have something in it for them. But the MasterCard rate is the bank-to-bank financial exchange rate. So I took out 2,000 dirhams out of the cash machine at the port, and I think that was about 165 pounds or so. That was the equivalent. So half that, give or take, 80 pounds to 1,000 dirhams. So easy way to think about it, 200 dirham note, knock off a zero is 20. So 20 quid, less a little bit, give or take 18 pounds or so. Not to be confused with the purple 20s, so give or take a £2, and the beige 100s, okay? Then there is coinage. The coinage, once you get past 10 dirhams, which is 80 pence or a pound or so, anything less than that, it's shrapnel. It's the same as 1 pence, 2 pence, and 5p pieces at home. Now, it's great to have them, but no one asks for change, if you know what I mean. Everything is rounded, generally speaking, to the nearest 10 dirhams. So when you're filling up with fuel, you want to keep as much coinage as possible, or small notes as possible. The favourite thing for Moroccans is, I don't have any change, rounding it up. You turn up on a motorbike that costs the same amount as someone's house in Morocco, they're going to try and shortchange you if possible. And that's fair enough. You know, we're in the West, we've got the money, they haven't.
So it's all about the money. How much did it cost in total? I'll flip back to my spreadsheet again. As you can see, I've got my hotels all listed and such like. As you can see, originally back in November, my ferry was going to cost £753. That was return with a motorbike with a cabin both ways. I managed to find some discounts. There is an AA discount if you're an AA member, as well as you might be able to sweet talk for a friends and family discount online or from a friend or family member. Generally speaking, the hotel prices when I had a look in November and then when I got round to booking it were roughly the same. Some of them did go up, some of them did go down. There were a few that were massive discrepancies. That's normally because I decided to go for a fancy room or something instead of the normal budget room. So the total actual cost of my accommodation only, and that included the £630 odd for the ferry, was £1,527. As I said, my original estimate was about £3,000. I ended up spending £65 on the insurance. I allowed £100 for it, but then there was also £25 for the SIM card, which I forgot to allow for. My actual fuel worked out to give or take about £400. I worked out fuel based on £1.48 a litre, which is the current price in the UK. Morocco was marginally cheaper, but my food, I allowed for £50 a day. That came in way less, and that was basically lunch and dinners. Lunches were just snacks on the road. Dinners were, generally speaking, no more than £10. So my total came in at about £2,600. That also included well over £150 spent in the bar on the ferry. £2,600, 3,151 miles door to door, excluding the ferry. Pretty good going, I think.
Closing words. If I could do it again, I would. I most definitely would. I would slow it down a little bit in that I was trying to clock in some significant mileage every day, and given the speeds or the average speeds that you can do isn't what Google says. If Google says it's going to take you 5 hours, allow for 6 or 7 hours. By the time you put in your coffee breaks, your lunch breaks, which can take anything from half an hour to 2 hours, you just don't know. Everything's in Moroccan time, nice and slow over there. So yeah, I'm going to try and break it up a little bit because we didn't have the opportunity to see certain towns and such like. That's about it. That's the only thing I changed, really. You know, I'm not one for putting a tent on the back of the bike and figuring out where I'm going to sleep tonight in the afternoon. I like to know where I'm going, where I'm going to end up being that evening, and have someone else cook dinner for me, very simply. Moroccan people, fantastic, super hospitable, super friendly. We didn't have one bit of argy-bargy or anything with anyone in Morocco. They were genuinely so grateful that we were coming to their country. Yeah, if you go there with an open mind, you'll come back with your mind blown. Do it again? Yes, I would. Do it with a bunch of strangers on Facebook? Yeah, probably. Hell, didn't really fuss me. But I need to go. You know, I'm not too worried about it. I didn't go as a tour guide, bear that in mind. You know, I was going, and if people wanted to follow me, they can follow me. It's not a problem. It was nice going with a good mix match of people. It made for an interesting couple of weeks. So yes, I'm going to be back there again. I've got to replan it and see if I can get permission from the boss to disappear out again for another 2 or 3 weeks, because she doesn't want to come with me. Well, no, that's a lie. She was too busy to do it. I really want to go back. I'm really, really missing being in Morocco. And what did I bring back? Not a lot. A set of coasters. That was it. Yeah. But hey, 6 ceramic coasters and myself. Yeah. That's all I need. If you can, do it. Let's ride.